Ladies and gentlemen, the oil palm is very tropical, and no one thought it topical to grow it in higher latitudes. But we have changed attitudes. Oil palm requires constant rain. In India, this was cause for pain. Some months are cold, some months are dry, so many thought this would not fly. But the secret is good irrigation. The yields now meet expectation. The seasonal swing is very wide, and this for us is the downside. But then the higher insulation is a partial consolation. More male flowers are also found. Fruit bunch development is very sound. The summer yields are very high, and so oil palm is worth a try. In fact, compared to global yields, we reach 1/3 in soya fields. But in oil palm, I must mention that with the help of good extension, on small holdings, our yields are fair, and with other lands they can compare. And so oil palm can entice land from mango, coconut and rice, which the farmers choose to spurn for oil palm's good sustained return. In India, we switch from crop to crop, so forest area doesn't drop. We do not choose to slash and burn, and if we do, we plant in turn. With oil palm too, we'll ensure good practices will endure. It's the policy of our nation to avoid peatlands and deforestation. We'll practice water conservation by using drip irrigation, and controlling GHG emission will be our abiding mission. As the oil palm steadily grows, in the early years, everyone knows much carbon is captured in the wood. In later years, it's understood the carbon capture would be less, but some there would be, I'd like to stress. We will always closely work with our farmers and never shirk in new knowledge acquisition. Helping our farmers is our mission. Our farmer practices we can assess thanks to our useful FMS. The farmer management system's nice. It helps provide good advice. Yields increase, the costs decline, the farmer practices are fine. Both soil and leaf are analyzed. Good insights are realized. Our farmers are then made aware as all these insights we carefully share. Another benefit, of course, is traceability to source. On this much effort has been spent, we have achieved 100%. Of course, to implement the scheme, we have our extension team. 150 is now their strength, and they will go to any length to help the farmers in every way. The yields improve day by day. Good advice is always sought. Sustainable practices are taught. We always like to stay in touch. After all, there is so much that we can share through our app. We can quickly fill a gap. The users are clearly identified. Tailor-made solutions are supplied. High-yielding seedlings will be supplied. Many experiments will be tried. At GAVL, I should mention, sustainability covers every dimension. And indeed, it is our goal to have robust internal control. On geomapping, we are bent. We have achieved 90%. Oil palm indeed can be sustainable. The goal for us is attainable. After studying RSPO as well as ISPO, MSPO, for India, IPOS was conceived. The standard has been well received. It is the standard that we use. Last year's assessment made good news. The many criteria that they fix amount to as many as 76. Our rating, we were told, was 94% level gold. But we, of course, will aspire to go higher and higher. Now, Indian output's bound to grow. With the new policies, we can show progress of a substantial kind. Till then, of course, you will find immense imports from Southeast Asia, from Indonesia and Malaysia. But we should have no fears. In about 20 years, as our farmers get efficient, India will be self-sufficient. Thanks to innovation and constant toil, we won't need to import oil. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody can hear me? After this... No, I don't. So after this session, after this incredible rhyme, clearly after everything I'm going to say now is going to fade away. I can imagine why would you stay for this session? Well, it's not because of me, but it's because of the two incredible distinguished speakers we have. So still, I will try. I put my timer just so everybody knows. I think we have around, around 20 minutes. So we have to keep it short. So, short introduction. My name is Daphna Meetman. I'm the General Manager of Sustainability, as was just mentioned. I'm almost 10 years with Wilmar, of which more than 9 with Wilmar Europe. For those who don't know Wilmar, it's Asia, one of Asia's biggest agribusiness groups, companies, headquarters Singapore, large for palm oil cultivation, but also oilseed crushing, oleochemicals, biodiesel, flour and mill, rice milling. We have been an RSPO member since 2004, and we are processing around 2 million metric ton certified RSPO palm oil annually, just to give you an idea. Wilmar was also the first company who launched the NDPE policy. Not sure if anybody knows what it is. It's the no deforestation, no peat, no exploitation policy. But before we continue, I would like to ask you to look a little bit around you. I'm not seeing anybody looking around them. Thank you. Because I'm a bit disappointed today. I think I'm the second woman on stage today. And I really hope that next year Globe Oil and Teflas can make a difference to that. There should be more women on stage here today. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So we're talking about India today. India, 1.4 billion people, import close to 10 million. We saw that today. They're aiming to produce 1 million metric ton palm oil themselves. Sorry, I'm talking about palm oil by 2025. And they also announced some ambitious climate plans back at COP26. So, but what can we say about sustainability in the palm oil industry in India? And which trends do we see which can influence this the palm oil industry in India? So these are the things we are going to discuss in this panel discussion today. And I will do that with my 2 distinguished guests, which I will introduce to you. To my right, to your left, Sai Venkatesh, which is currently the Vice President of RG Corp. He has more than 30 years experience in consumer-facing companies like PepsiCo, KFC, and Pizza Hut. But also, he has experience in many different commodities, like, for instance, tomato, chili, ginger, soya, cereal, palm oil, rice, and coffee. Then to my left, to your wide right, we have Joseph De Cruz. And since I know Joseph De Cruz already a bit longer, I can say JD, because we all know him like JD. JD is the CEO of the RSPO, the Roundtable Sustainable Palm Oil. And before that, and the RSPO, for who doesn't know, it's the world's leading sustainability standard for palm oil. And prior to that, JD worked at the United Nations. But I think you all saw him on stage this morning already. I hope at the end we still have some time for 1 or 2 questions, but I like to jump in immediately. And I like to start, because this will be an interview type of session. JD, I would like to start with you. So what is your organization doing in relation to sustainability in the palm oil industry or in the palm oil value chain? And what actions and activities are you specifically doing in India to support this?
Thank you, Daphne, and good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us here today. As actually, Daphne, you know far better than I do, the RSPO is the world's leading sustainability organization in the palm sector. But I would rather say that the RSPO is more than that. The RSPO is the world's leading partnership on sustainability in the palm sector. Because the thing that powers our progress, the thing that powers our success is actually the 5,600 plus organizations around the world, from some of the largest agribusiness companies like Wilmar, down to many of the smaller producers, smallholder groups, who actually define on the ground what sustainability means in our sector. And we at the RSPO distill that into a set of standards which are audited for the industry to be able to define across the entire supply chain what sustainability means for us. And we will certainly go into that question of what sustainability means in our sector, I think, in more detail. Here in India, we have been active for a while. Many of you will know my colleagues, Ashwin and Shiv, who are around here, working to help understand how we can contribute to the sustainability vision and journey that the Indian sector has been on for many years. We have extensive conversations, not only with many of the largest agribusinesses represented here, but also increasingly working with governments at the central and state level and working with smallholder groups who are interested in becoming part of the sustainability journey with us. I think we are still at an early but very exciting stage here in India, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing over the next few years how sustainability gains traction within the industry, and particularly how we define and contextualize the challenges of sustainability in a way that resonates with where India needs to go as an industry and as a sector.
Thank you, JD. Then actually, I probably give the mic to Sai. Sai, what is your organization doing for sustainability activities in the specifically in India?
Well, good evening, everybody. I am representing the RJ Corp, which is the franchisee of Yum and which is spearheading the QSR growth in India. The QSR segment in India is growing exponentially with the aim of one outlet per day in every sphere of the country, be it KFC, Pizza Hut, Domino's or McDonald's, and all of them are dependent on this RSPO certified palm oil. And the beauty of it is the QSR business is a cost of sale business. It's not a consumption business. So the kind of cost element, the kind of security along with which you produce a product directly to eat for any customer is something which is ingrained in the kind of SOPs to get a right oil grown in the right form, grown in the right situation and the circumstances. Having said that, when we have the icons like Godrej and even before a few decades, Ruchi Soya was involved in the palm cultivation, it's high time that Indonesia and Malaysia, if they sneeze, India is going to catch cold. It is that kind of a dependence on a smaller portion for a higher amount of volume of palm oil imports. It's high time that we get into the habit of following the sustainable palm oil growth in India. As Mr. Godrej very nicely put it, India is having anything and everything and remove the burden out of the shoulders of Malaysia and Indonesia and partner with them, leveraging their learnings to bring it and present it in India to grow the palm oil usage so that any sector, almost 40% of household, 23% of food sector, and about 20% of cosmetics and pharmaceuticals are dependent on this kind of a need. It's high time, instead of thinking about how to do a sustainable palm oil cultivation, it is better to think in terms of why not to ensure that we have a sustainable palm oil cultivation. So there is no choice. It is a mandatory acceptance which you have to follow. And we, from the QSR segment, from the end user segment, we are committed to go along with the support of the government and with the support of Asian Palm Oil Exchange, like the Defense Squad which was formed. It is a palm oil exchange which was formed with the legends like Atul Bhai and others to guide and take it to the next level in the exponential form. Thanks.
In the meantime, I got my own mic. Okay, thank you. Of course, that makes my sustainability heart jump faster when you say these things. JD, I go back to you because I know myself that there's a lot of global trends going on at the moment in the value chain or in the supply chain of palm oil. So how is your organization, how is the RSPO looking at those? How is it affecting those? How is it affecting the RSPO? But also, is it affecting your activities in India specifically, those global trends which you see?
Thanks, Daphne. I would start by offering an observation about how sustainability has gained traction within the industry. 20 years ago, when the RSPO was founded, the RSPO was founded as a voluntary association of actors within the supply chain who themselves recognized the need to set for ourselves a standard and an aspiration for what sustainability means. But the world's very different in 2013. Sustainability has now become something that is a priority not only for industries and consumers, but it's becoming a policy priority in many countries. And so the focus on sustainability is shifting increasingly to regulatory structures, led in many cases by more advanced economies, but very rapidly also becoming relevant in the global south, in countries like India, certainly for many years in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia. For RSPO, I think the relevance in a bigger picture sense is how we continue to add value in that space. And I believe we do that in two ways. One is in providing a platform that allows our members to demonstrate compliance with and to demonstrate that we are already meeting and exceeding the regulatory requirements of our markets. But secondly, and very importantly, as a voluntary standard that, if I may say so, is powered by some of the most committed leading actors in the industry, to continue to be that innovation space that figures out what sustainability needs to mean in the future. Because sustainability is a constant process of improvement. It's not simply a benchmark you reach and then you rest on your laurels. It is really about thinking what the future might hold. And Mr. Godrej, sir, with apologies to you, I'm about to mangle something from a poem you wrote a while ago, which I'll try to remember, where you said, we must not be readers of best practices, we must be leaders of next practices. And that resonated with me, and even in my horrible memory, I remember that because that to me captures a lot of what sustainability is. What are the practices that are going to help us respond to the challenges of the future? Whether it is the climate emergency on the one side, or whether it is providing decent and dignified jobs and livelihoods for our farmers and our workers. How do we look to that future? And that is very much a role I see RSPO continuing to play, even as regulations and market expectations frame what the minimum standard on sustainability is.
Sai, for you, the same question. What about the trends you see in sustainability, in palm oil, in India, in your sector, in the consumer-facing sector? What kinds of global or trends do you see?
Well, as far as the consumer sector is concerned, palm oil has become a part and parcel of anybody's, right from the housewife to the consumer, to the QSR segment, or to anybody. It's an unavoidable one. Even the Indian government is distributing the palm oil through the public distribution system. So this product has already reached to the extent of the acceptability over decades, and it's high time that we stand to support doing it the right way. And like Joseph mentioned, the word of sustainability or the word of right way of doing the palm oil cultivation without any environmental hazard is not a risk. It is actually an opportunity. If you look at the opportunity, a vast country like India, where you have from the northeast to the south, and incidentally, I've seen an island in Kakinada port called Hope. In that Hope Island, there is nothing, it's a barren land, and there are palm trees grown on its own. So identify the pockets, which legends like Godrej Group is doing, Patanjali is doing, and let's come together, and it's very important. This is the time, if I put it in Hindi, tel ka kel has to be done in a very pragmatic way, and don't get carried away by what was there in the past. We are in the age where India has landed on the moon already. Let's think afresh, let's think fast, and if we have to produce something what last 8,000 years produced, we have to go on a grassroots level change aggressively without minding anything, and at the same time standing up for what we need. If Russian crude makes sense for the Indian economy, why not palm oil? It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Again, very inspiring and inspiring. I would like to believe this is really going to happen. We're going to the end already, but I do have And I think this question is maybe a little bit more for JD than it is for Sai. Considering the large use of, or the use of palm oil in India for cooking oil, and hence is crucial for food security. So what can the policymakers do to secure a sustainable production or sustainable import of palm oil? And maybe what can be the learnings from what happened or the situation in Southeast Asia? And you know which learnings I mean.
I'm going to try and sort of make this a brief answer to a very complex question. I think there are two dimensions to this, Daphne. There is very much the question of imports. And I'm well aware in many of our conversations here in India, that question of the connection between palm as a product and food security and therefore the price sensitivity of the product. But I would start at a different place. India, as Sai mentioned, it's a massive country. It's also a very diverse country. It's not just a country of relatively poor people who care about food security. It's also, 350, 400 million middle-class people who have the ability, the desire to consume products that are of a higher quality and that have a greater contribution to the world. So from our side in RSPO, the thing that I'm most curious about is how do we build a value proposition for sustainability that appeals to that middle class through the products they use. Whether it is pharmaceuticals, whether it is household care products, personal care products, etc. There's a tremendous amount we can do there. On the question of the sustainability of the broader imports, I actually connect that back to what Sai Saab, you're talking about in terms of domestic production. If India is going to set up its domestic production the right way from the beginning, a sustainable way, then I think it's also very important from a policy perspective to ensure that the imports coming into India meet an equivalent standard. And therefore, in that context, I think the policy question for the Indian government is, what are the minimum sustainability standards we should expect of all our imports to ensure that our domestic production competes in equal terms? And let me be perfectly clear here, Daphne, I'm not necessarily suggesting that should be RSPO.
Exactly, that was my question.
Exactly. We work a lot with national standards like MSPO and ISPO. We have extensive conversations now about the transformative impact of mandatory national standards in establishing what the absolute minimum needs to be for a product to be considered sustainable. And I think that role and that value is something that India can also learn from.
And Sai, then I have a different question for you. So, as also was mentioned before, currently India is often mentioned as one of the countries buying unsustainable palm oil, right? So, how do we make the case to the Indian consumer that sustainability should be a core value for their products, right? How can we make the Indian consumer value sustainability more?
Thanks. I think both the farmers and the consumers in India have grown over decades. The Indian farmers are no longer the Stone Age farmers. Neither are they going to be the moonwalkers. They understand that they are up to the world standard, and they understand equally what the Indian consumers need to a larger extent, even though they don't figure out that part of that business, because that's where the value adders like us get involved, and the icons like Godrej Group gets involved. Most importantly, I think the need of palm oil sustainability is not related to any old age. India has a big youth population. It's time to infiltrate at the school level, student level. The student becomes the youth becomes the leader becomes a family man, the family becomes the old. And it's a journey. Fortunately, we don't have to repeat the mistakes what has happened in Malaysia or Indonesia. We can straight away get this instilled in our system. And today, the Indian consumer, if Malaysia, Indonesia sneezes us, we catch cold, and we don't want to land on a COVID again, to the extent of not aware of, or the consumer not aware of any sustainability need. They are completely aware, and they are willing to go for it, and they are prepared to go for it. They are going for it. That's how the 4, 5, 7 million tons have reached 10 million tons in India.
And thank you very much. And I think people who know me know that I can speak for hours on palm oil, on sustainable palm oil specifically. If you want, I stay here. But I have the feeling people want us off the stage. So I will do a short summary. So if I understand correctly, RSPO is going to provide its member input so they can comply with the increasing regulations. RSPO is also advocating actually for a minimum country level of sustainability so everybody can jump on the sustainability journey. We should be the leaders of the next practices. India will need to comply with the sustainability requirements, and they can because they land a man on the moon. And we also should start with educating our children at school level about what sustainability is. And then my final question to you. Do you want to add anything to this conversation?
Yeah, I just want to say that sustainability is very important and it is very easily achievable. And you don't really have to pay a very high price for it, particularly in India. We use biomass throughout palm oil mills, and as well as in our new refinery, which we have just commissioned, we have enough for all of that and some left over. And I want to say that oil palm is extremely sustainable and it is a carbon negative crop, which makes it very useful for the world to solve the climate change problem. And sustainability, other than environmental sustainability, it also includes social sustainability. And we are working very hard on that front as well.
Thank you so much, my fellow panelists. Thank you so much for all your knowledge and sharing that with the audience. Everybody will be here still for a couple of more hours, I presume. So if you have more questions, please let us know and enjoy the rest of the event. Thank you very much.